A philosopher once said that if you dissect language, it will bleed. Language carries a powerful life force. Words can be as gentle as spring breezes, bringing joy, or as sharp as knives, causing wounds. Language profoundly impacts your family, relationships, and life, acting either as gunpowder smoke causing conflict or as a gentle breeze bringing peace and joy. Even if you think you're not involved in violence because you follow the law, the book Nonviolent Communication will reveal that we live in a world full of verbal violence. We often don't realize how our way of speaking can cause pain to ourselves and others, leading to negative emotions, conflicts, and hindering our ability to live harmoniously and love. And I'm Sophia. Don't forget to follow the great books in the description. Today, I'd like to share with you about the book Nonviolent Communication, A Language of Compassion by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, a clinical psychology expert. This classic work provides deep insights into nonviolent communication and offers specific methods to avoid conflicts, improve relationships, and foster understanding. This book summarizes Dr. Marshall's theory on nonviolent communication, condensed from 50 years of research. Since its publication, it has become a worldwide classic in psychology. Now, let's dive into the contents of this book. How have we blurred love through language? When a mother scolds her child, does it mean she doesn't love them? When couples argue, has their love truly vanished? Life holds a paradox. The more we care, the more easily we can hurt each other with sharp words. Dr. Rosenberg points out that behind every reproach lies an expectation. Because we care deeply and know each other well, we have higher expectations. When these aren't met, we often overlook the other person's needs, causing pain and making our love hard to feel. When these aren't met, we often overlook the other person's needs, causing pain and making our love hard to feel. And when those expectations aren't met, we tend to overlook the other person's needs and inadvertently cause pain, making them unable to feel our love. According to Dr. Marshall, there are 4 factors that can turn everyday communication into verbal violence. The first, moral judgments, using one's own moral standards to judge others. For example, when someone does not meet our expectations, we can easily judge them as being bad or immoral. This often happens when we don't look for the cause within ourselves and instead blame others. Words accompanied by criticism, blame, and insults are part of the process of judging others by our own standards, disregarding their feelings and needs. This is the root cause of violence. The second is comparison. The habit of comparing others, especially within the family, can cause significant harm. Statements like "look at how well others are studying" diminish the value of the individual and cause suffering. Dr. Marshall quotes, "If you want to live a miserable life, compare yourself to others." The next is avoiding responsibility. Often, we use words to shift blame and avoid taking responsibility. For example, a war criminal might say, "I had to do it. It was the commander's order." In everyday life, we make excuses like "I was late because of traffic," or "I couldn't do it because the test was too difficult." Complaining is also a way to avoid responsibility. The last is complaining and blaming. Complaints are often ways of avoiding responsibility. A woman in Dr. Marshall's workshop expressed, "I hate cooking. I don't want to cook. Why have I been doing this for 20 years?" After receiving guidance, she decided to stop cooking. Her children were relieved not to hear her daily complaints. The impact of not cooking was less significant than the negative effect of her constant complaints and the burden of her negative emotions on the family. In reality, the impact of not cooking was less significant than the negative effect of her constant complaints and the burden of her negative emotions on the family. Immediately after the workshop, she decided to stop cooking for her family. 3 weeks later, her 2 sons attended the workshop to share their feelings about their mother not being in the kitchen. To everyone's surprise, the eldest son exclaimed, "Oh, thank God, we finally don't have to listen to complaints at every meal anymore." Why was the child so relieved? The impact of her not cooking was less significant than the negative effect of her daily complaints. The mother often vented her fatigue and frustrations from cooking after a long day at work. outwardly seeking sympathy from the family. But in reality, it was a sign of her dissatisfaction and avoidance of responsibility. If you find yourself in a similar situation, unable to share household tasks with other family members, the author suggests changing your mindset from "I have to do this" to "I choose to do this." If you see cooking as a burden and do it with resentment, it will only exhaust you. Your words and actions can unintentionally become a form of invisible violence towards your loved ones. Instead, if you approach tasks with love, thinking, "I choose to do this for my children," and it's great to be able to care for them, the sense of voluntary action will bring you joy. People often perform best and find true joy when they act willingly. Why do your children always dislike doing homework? Because they feel they have to do it, not because they want to. If you can't make them understand that this is something they choose to do, and instead, you force, scold, or monitor them, it only reinforces their belief that they are being coerced. This can lead to resistance or compliance done begrudgingly and unhappily. The final reason why communication becomes violent is coercion. For example, if a mother says to her child, "Your grades are so low, I'm really disappointed," you might think this statement isn't violent. However, it still carries an element of coercion, as it implies that the child is responsible for the parent's disappointment. Even if such communication works in the short term, making the child feel guilty and try harder not to disappoint their mother, it doesn't foster a genuine love for learning. The child will not find joy in studying again. Remember, do not use such statements as a form of confiding with loved ones. In reality, it is a form of violent communication because you're using language to bind, which may sound emotional, but is actually intended to coerce the other person into doing what you want. Broadly speaking, many relationships involve subtle forms of coercion, like, "If you don't do this, then I will." As long as you haven't reflected on your communication style, you may unintentionally or intentionally spread verbal violence to those around you. This way of speaking obscures and diminishes the love and sincerity within you towards others. So, what exactly is nonviolent communication, and how can we use it to transform our lives? The first step in nonviolent communication is observation. What should we observe? We should observe facts neutrally, meaning when making a request, present the facts without adding personal judgments or comments. How can we express the truth without causing a negative reaction? By using specific language such as, "I noticed you've been late 4 times this month." This is a factual observation without jumping to conclusions or judgments about the person's actions. You don't know the specific reasons why the employee was late, so your job is to state what you've observed. When facts are presented objectively, the listener is more likely to accept them and respond realistically, rather than making excuses. As the famous philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti said, "Observation without judgment is the highest form of intelligence." The more we contemplate this, the more we see its truth, especially in communication. Observation without judgment helps us understand reality better and fosters genuine and effective communication. There's also a beautiful poem that says, "I have never seen a lazy person, only someone who sometimes takes a nap when it rains and doesn't go out." But they are not lazy. Before speaking carelessly, consider whether they are lazy or if their actions appear lazy. Similarly, I have never met a dull child, only one who sometimes doesn't understand things or doesn't follow instructions. But they are not dull. Before speaking carelessly, think about whether they are dull or if they understand things differently from you. Confucius once said, "The noble person is not a tool," meaning a noble person is not limited to one purpose or task. I know a friend who takes beautiful photographs. His photos are loved by many, and various brands approach him for shoots. Even after many years, people still praise him as a great photographer. But deep down, he feels uncomfortable and distressed, thinking, "Will I only be a photographer for my whole life?" Why does he feel this way? It's the pain of feeling limited, not being able to fully develop his potential. Everyone wants to become a complete person and achieve more in the future. You can respectfully refer to someone by a title, but never define them solely by their profession, like photographer, chef, driver, etc. The poem above carries high moral and spiritual value. If you fully understand it, you'll realize that you should never rush to label, judge, or define a person. Just observe without carrying any judgment. If you can cultivate this practice, it will be a wonderful quality. Nonviolent communication also requires an important step: expressing your feelings. Why is it necessary to express your true feelings in communication? Because if you don't express what's really inside you, you won't achieve the purpose of communication. The goal of nonviolent communication is to help us express ourselves while also listening to others in a peaceful and loving atmosphere. If a person cannot express their intentions and ultimate desires, they may resort to outbursts or uncontrolled emotional expressions. One memorable quote from the book is, "Behind every anger, there is a need that hasn't been met." To address your own needs, you need to take the next step, expressing your feelings after recognizing and articulating the truth. Why should you express your feelings? Because we often feel reluctant to reveal our true feelings, possibly stemming from experiences in childhood. For example, when you fell and your mother said, "Blame the chair, it didn't hurt," or when you felt wronged at school and your father said, "Don't cry over such a small thing." Adults often believe that hiding emotions is a sign of maturity, and crying in public is seen as inappropriate. However, in reality, not knowing how to care for and express your feelings can lead to two problems: either being overly repressed, which can lead to depression, or becoming prone to sudden anger and losing control with others. Expressing feelings is not shameful. The issue lies in losing control of emotions. When the author asked an angry person, "What's wrong?" and received the response, "He made me feel humiliated. I want to hit him." This is not an expression of feeling, but a judgment. Expressing feelings requires using specific words to describe emotional states such as angry, frustrated, sad, hurt, lonely, scared, anxious, disappointed, lost, or regretful. These are words that express unmet feelings. Conversely, if you feel happy, joyful, warm, excited, peaceful, relaxed, safe, or comfortable, use these words to express satisfaction. Practice conveying your real feelings to others. Instead of saying, "Do you even consider this a home?" When your husband doesn't come home for a few nights, observe the facts, state the reality, and express your feelings, such as, "You haven't been home for several nights, and I feel very sad." Starting communication this way helps you express love, rather than creating a sense of blame or judgment. Expressing feelings is just the beginning. You also need to move to the next step in nonviolent communication, stating your needs. Many people might misunderstand that stating needs means expressing the final desire, but in fact, needs here refer to the root cause of your emotions. The root cause of emotions is the reason why you feel that way, and what unmet need is causing dissatisfaction. This is the underlying need behind the feeling of disappointment. The difference between the two statements is that the disappointment in the first sentence stems from the other's actions, while the disappointment in the second sentence arises because the speaker's desire wasn't fulfilled. When expressing feelings, focus on understanding and addressing the issue within yourself rather than blaming others. When you acknowledge and share the problem from your perspective, the listener is more likely to accept what you're saying. They will understand that they matter to you, which helps avoid anger, blame, or complaints and keeps the relationship from becoming distant. We must remember that in nonviolent communication, a crucial principle is that if you want your requests to be positively received, you need to be honest about why you have that need. The author advises using phrases like, "I feel this way because of that." For example, instead of saying, "Today is our anniversary, you didn't do anything. I'm very disappointed," you should say, "Today is our anniversary, you didn't do anything, and I'm very disappointed because I value the meaning of this day. I think it's an important day to celebrate our love." The final goal in nonviolent communication is to articulate what you truly want. which the author calls requesting help. When expressing your desires, use request language rather than issuing commands. This distinction is vital because many people do not differentiate between a request and a command. If your request is not met, and you start criticizing or blaming, it becomes a command. For example, if you say, "I feel lonely going alone, can you come with me?" This way, you not only express your feelings, but also clarify the reason behind them, helping the other person understand better and respond to your needs more effectively. And the other person refuses. If you feel they are selfish, your request turned into a command. It is essential to express your desires without pressuring the other person, avoiding guilt or coercion to get what you want. Phrases like "if you care about me, you will come with me" may seem harmless, but they still carry the essence of a command. This statement disguises the request in a way that creates pressure and compels the other person to comply. Such requests are not only ineffective in communication, but can also damage the relationship over time. It's crucial to express your desires sincerely and clearly without imposing them, allowing the other person to respond willingly. When unable to issue a command, people often hesitate to articulate their wants, instead expressing what they don't want, hoping the other person will understand. But when the other person doesn't get it, it can lead to feelings of hurt or resentment. For instance, if a wife says, "I don't want you working overtime so much," and the husband stops working overtime but signs up for a golf class instead, the wife becomes furious. Why? Because she actually wanted him to spend more time with the family. Not everyone is skilled at listening and understanding the underlying meaning of your words. Therefore, the key to effectively expressing your needs is to be clear and specific about your desires, avoiding vague or implied language, so the other person can easily understand and meet your needs. When using nonviolent communication, you need to combine 4 elements: observation, expressing feelings, stating needs, and requesting help. For example, if you want a colleague to secure an important document, but the next day you find it lying on the desk instead of getting angry, observe your feelings and express them honestly. First, observe. "I noticed that the important documents I gave you were left on the desk." Then express feelings. "I feel a bit disappointed." Next, state the underlying need for that feeling. "Because I asked you to keep them safe, and I'm very concerned about the security of these papers. If they get lost, it will cause serious consequences." Finally, request help. "I want you to put these documents in the drawer and lock them because they are really important." When your colleague hears this, they will recognize their carelessness and empathize with you without feeling resentment because your words were expressed honestly and respectfully. In essence, nonviolent communication requires us to reevaluate our thinking and word choices, being careful with statements that might cause discomfort, resentment, or strong animosity. Most importantly, you must always express yourself honestly and genuinely listen to others. Through genuine and respectful communication, we can feel the beauty of life and create an environment filled with love. A boy went to the temple and asked a wise man, "Why does the Buddha in the temple have a small mouth but large ears?" The wise man replied, "Because the Buddha understands that listening is more important than speaking." People often like to express themselves and learn to present, speak, and communicate effectively, but listening is even more challenging. As Morris once said, the only way to become a good speaker is to learn to listen to others. Listening is crucial, but we often don't really know how to listen properly. In this book, the author identifies the things that prevent us from truly listening, such as frequently offering opinions, relating others' stories to our own, or comforting, dismissing, sympathizing, or asking unnecessary questions. These actions often hinder real listening. The desire to express oneself and steer the conversation towards oneself can make it easy to interrupt others. Wanting to please others, you might comfort or dismiss their feelings, showing insincere sympathy. The other person can sense whether you genuinely want to understand them. These behaviors do not constitute real listening. The way to listen simply is to let go of your thoughts and judgments and focus on what others are saying. Remember the saying, "The ear is the pathway to the soul." Only by truly listening can we understand each other's stories and connect more deeply. The author emphasizes that listening is about giving your full attention to others, which is a sign of love and care. To sum up, nonviolent communication consists of 4 main elements: observation, feelings, needs, and requests. While it may seem complex, simply applying these 4 elements in practice, without overthinking the order, can achieve effective communication. Learning nonviolent communication not only improves your speaking skills, but also helps you understand and love yourself more. You will learn to observe and express your own emotions, thereby developing self-awareness and empathy towards others. When we can clearly recognize our emotions, whether happy, sad, excited, or down, this awareness is a precious gift that allows us to love ourselves. Secondly, we learn how to truly listen. Nonviolent communication isn't about conquering others with words. It's about understanding the power of listening. Many conflicts and misunderstandings aren't resolved through talking, but through genuine listening. Lastly, we learn how to express anger and gratitude. Saying things like, "I am angry, I don't like this, I am sad, and you are great, thank you," can be some of the most challenging things in everyday life. When rejection becomes difficult, when anger can't be expressed, or when compliments and appreciation become silent concerns, this way of living can lead to feelings of depression, anxiety, and even depression. Nonviolent communication teaches you that anger is an instinctive self-defense mechanism. You don't have to suppress it, but you also shouldn't unleash it recklessly. Instead, learn how to express it appropriately. The concept of nonviolent communication can change your perspective on everything, improve your attitude towards negative things, and enhance your quality of life with boundless love for yourself and everyone around you. As Roman Dragon once said, there is only one heroism in the world: to see the world as it is and to love it. Thank you for listening until the end. If you found this video helpful, please share it with those around you. We hope this video will contribute to creating a loving community that knows how to use language to love themselves and others. Don't forget to support us by liking, subscribing, and turning on the notification bell to see our latest videos every week. Once again, thank you, and see you in the next videos.